All right. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us on a V2VG podcast, a video podcast. This time
Yes.
I actually remembered to turn the camera on. If you follow our audio podcast, you'll realize that when we did the one on racism, I forgot to turn the camera on.
And these things happen, right?
They do happen. So we're trying something a little different with our audio today. I'm wearing the lapel mic.
And I'm on the standard
Chuck is on
directional, right?
He's on the regular microphone. We have our soundboard here. So the idea is to see the difference in sound quality. We're always learning.
And yeah, right? I mean, we have a big event coming up in September.
Yeah.
It's better to kind of knock out these bugs now and not when we're outside
Yeah,
trying to make things happen. So
for sure. But it's always a growth for us to figure these things out.
Oh, absolutely. And it kind of goes along with what we wanted to talk about today.
Growth, right? Now, we have talked before about how we grow as an organization and we continue to grow. And recently, we came across a situation where we had an opportunity. I consider it an opportunity for growth.
Yes.
So if you want to give us a
Most will
rundown.
consider us fucking up. And
Well,
that's
well,
okay.
it is a fuck up.
That's okay. But so we have a couple that we work with that is the first time that they're not involved in the VA system as far as disability.
Right.
So one of the things we were trying to do is work with other organizations to come up with money to help put together an interior ramp for this gentleman who has Parkinson's, and
Yeah.
he really struggles to even stand up or anything in his own house.
Yeah.
So that's what the project was for. One of the organizations we work with requires up-to-date bank statement along with a budget plan, and in that bank statement they saw a certain amount of funds, and it was above what they would allow in order for them to help. So when we confronted the veteran about it, he was going on about how it was for his wife when he passes away because she won't get his pension.
Right.
And we had no idea, anything about that,
Well,
how
we were
that
under
works.
we were still stuck in the disability mindset, the disability pension, the VA
Yeah.
disability pension, which is automatic. If you get a VA disability payment, when you die, your spouse automatically gets,
Yeah.
it rolls over to the spouse. But we kind of forgot that he wasn't getting a
Yeah.
disability pension. He was getting a flat military retirement pension.
Yeah.
And we discovered through various sources, including a veteran benefits officer, that
yeah.
for military retirement pay, you have to sign up for the SBP,
It's
which is
kinda
Survivor
like-
Benefits Plan.
Yeah, it's like continuing with your life insurance.
It's sort of like that.
So
But so you pay into it to continue this retirement annuity, basically, and so that way when you pass away, your spouse will continue to get a portion of your retirement funds. Well, they didn't do that when he initially retired. So when he said basically that, oh, we didn't pay into it, it kind of clicked something in my mind about the SBP program. So Chuck and I were thinking, this is not right. So we need to look into this, because we told them, no, we can't pay
Yeah.
it. This other organization's not paying, we're not, because you have X amount of funds available. So our board's going to say no, and they would have said no.
yeah.
So we looked into it, and they were right, and we were wrong, because one, they weren't getting disability payments,
Yeah.
and two, they didn't pay into the SBP program, so she won't receive a part of his pension. So they were struggling to save up this little nest egg.
Yeah, and it
So
wasn't
when-
like a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
It was, it was a relatively modest amount when you consider his age and
Yeah, and his
and
comorbidities.
he's not able to really get a lot of help with the
Right.
disability because a lot of what he had done in the service is retracted.
It's classified because he was a
So-
submariner, so it's really, really tough for him to get some things that he maybe otherwise should get.
Yeah, so
So luckily we discovered the error on our part, and Chuck called back. I was here, and we apologized and explained the situation to our board members. That was
Yeah.
another key thing.
yeah,
And told them this is the situation. We were wrong. and this is the situation. This is why they have money saved up. It is for a rainy day, and it's going to rain probably soon.
Yes,
Without
with
being
the way
morbid.
things are, yes, you know.
And we reconsidered putting up a motion, and we did, and it passed.
Yeah, you know what's really great about this whole thing is it seemed like all four of us, you and I, and then this veteran and his wife, initially when the conversation happened about the money, we were all very confused because they clearly didn't understand what we were talking about, and we didn't understand what they were talking about.
Because our minds were on a different sheet of music.
Yeah, but when we called back this morning and we talked to them and all that, they were so grateful and very understanding, and you know we explained that the other organizations probably aren't going to see it the same way.
They just see flat numbers, and we don't see it that way. We've never seen our clients as just numbers.
Yes, so you know, but yeah, you did a great update on what was going on, and then we put the motion in, and it was relatively fast approval, and
now as far
all
as
for
the
the better.
remaining amount, that's, you know, they're going to have to come up with that remaining amount because the other organization that we were working with is likely not going to, like Chuck said, see it that way. But we did what we initially pledged to do, which is nice. It's a fuck up on our part, but I think we grew from that.
No, absolutely,
And we developed something that we're going to put forward for a policy.
Yes, and that goes right back into the growth aspect of things, and that's we are looking to bring to our board of directors adopting that policy of when we have a $500 and above request that has to be unanimously voted for us to get an up-to-date bank statement and do a budget plan.
Yeah.
And I think that will help convince some people that would be otherwise on the fence, right? I mean,
I know it would help convince me because then you have actually have in black and white what the person has available, liquidatable funds to put towards something.
yeah.
And in this case, they have the money to put towards it. However, it's actually earmarked for something else, arguably something just as important, if not more important.
Yeah, you know, and I
Her
think,
survival, you
Yeah,
know.
I think the situation at the end of the day was successful and a learning opportunity, but during it, I mean, we had to say no, like straight out no for the first time. I think, like
It was difficult to do that.
to good people,
Yeah.
and we were just confused. So we had to say sorry for saying no, but also say sorry because we had to do the research. But I think that's one of those things that separates us from a lot of organizations is that as soon as we had an inkling that we were wrong, the first thing this morning, we're calling 3 or 4 different VA representatives to find out all the information you looked up on the website.
Yeah.
So we wanted to find out what the deal was,
Right.
and you know we were able to correct that that screw up.
And it's correct to screw up for our purposes and for theirs. I noticed that you're wearing your OG
Yes.
shirt with our old website, and so
Yeah.
am I.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
I forgot to put my hat on today.
that's okay.
So,
you have your luxurious hair going like Fabio.
which is getting taken care of today too. So you know, but,
That's
you know,
okay.
the other aspect of this video podcast we wanted to do was our declination letters. And
Yeah.
I think it's important specifically with this case because we were in the process of doing. So we don't just say no, right? We say no, and then we provide documentation to help them understand.
So
which
we write a
was
declination
huge.
letter. Is what Chuck's saying. It's specifies the stuff. So it's
would've
helpful. It's
been-
not just no over the phone. Like
And especially for this couple where she's a French descent. She was born and raised a good part of her childhood in France, and
Yeah.
and with the Parkinson, his speech is really difficult to understand,
Yeah.
and his understanding ability is definitely so. In the process of that, we were in the process of doing a declination letter, which I think is so important because we could have sent them the letter if we didn't find the stuff out, and they could have been like, "Hey, listen, we talked to so and so, and we can match what we know now with what you guys have said no about.
Yeah, I
And-
think
and it
people
can help
forget
us.
that when, first of all, when any charity denies you, you can always appeal the denial, even if it doesn't say it. That you can. What hurts? What does it hurt to send a letter back saying, "Can I appeal this decision?" You don't. I mean, maybe, but like Chuck's saying, if we had sent the declination letter, they could have appealed it to us and said, "Well, actually, we think you're incorrect on this and this and this point because of X, Y, Z."
Yeah.
And
you
then
know.
we could have found out that way too. Luckily, it just happened that Chuck had called a bunch of VA caseworkers, and I looked up on the internet a bunch of information. We found out on our own, but it could have gone that way too.
Yeah, and well, the good thing is they were referred to us by Crystal Letourneau.
Yes.
And so, who knows? They could have got back in touch with her and like, listen, you know, we got this letter saying that they can't help us because of this, and then Crystal could have reached out to us and been like, hey, listen, guys. And so I think
she
having
probably
that
would've.
actual documentation not only keeps us straight and narrow, but it gives the other people the opportunity to go ahead and, you know, challenge if they feel that they have proof otherwise.
I believe in a paper trail, a written record of things, not only because I have a traumatic brain injury and memory problems, but I also believe in a written record because if you have a written record, you can go to it to prove or disprove what was said or what wasn't said, and it's not just hearsay. Chuck or Eric said over the phone that you were going to pay our rent for the month. Well, hold on, you know.
And that's happened.
No,
We've got.
I'm not even being facetious. That has actually happened. Now, if there's a written and signed letter, that's a different story. But if they just say to somebody else that we said that over the phone, we don't talk. That's not what we do. That's not what we do. And because we've always had a written record,
Yes,
we're not just saying that. Oh, this time we would have written it down. We've done that since the beginning of the charity.
And when we do meet with any of our clients, we almost never speak in absolutes. Like we always explain what we do, where we're going to go from A, B, C to whatever, and then as soon as we get all the information we need, then we start documenting all that and bring it to our board and stuff. So. But
because we actually, even being the president and vice president, it's not our organization. We just represent Veterans to Veterans Group. We represent the board of directors.
Yeah.
Even though Chuck's the president of the board of directors, he still represents the board of directors. So when Chuck says we don't speak in absolutes, we don't say, okay, we're going to do this. We always say we're going to make a motion and present it to the board.
Yes.
The board collectively decides what we're going to do.
And you know, it's frustrating because that did happen. You know, where someone said that we promised to pay the rent, and we actually had the contract. We did a makeshift contract with these people that they had to follow certain guidelines, and a big part of it was because drug use. So we don't want to
drug
be
use and drug sales that they, you know.
So it actually was going to a court for the people to be evicted, and they brought up that, oh, you guys promised you were going to do that. Like, well, here we have the contract that said you guys are going to do these three things. If you don't, at any point, it stops. There is no...
Our assistance in every way ceases. And
Yeah.
Chuck was there with that ready, and the judge said, it's right here in black and white.
So
that's the key about keeping a paper, a written record.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
And this fuck up that we had yesterday and today, or yesterday's fuck up and today's fixing it,
Yeah.
is another example of providing or growing a written record. So now we're gonna put forth a policy amendment to the board of directors saying, asking if we could put a request for bank statements on 500 and above. And I think it's prudent, and I don't see the board having a problem with it.
No, and you know, just like with the social security numbers, the account numbers can be marked off of it. We don't need that.
We don't need it.
You know, but I think, you know, it's really important too, as far as both of these things, is don't just go by what you think you know. You know, be willing to, you know, explore some other avenues, because especially if you're a new business or a program, there's going to be things out there. And I mean, we deal a lot with the the federal, but more specifically the state level of
Yeah.
the VA. But there's so many rules and regulations and laws and bylaws and all
change.
kinds of stuff.
And I think it's
So-
important, and we know this. I think it's important to admit when you're wrong, and publicly admit when you're wrong.
And I'm a pro at this. I have become quite amazing at apologizing because I'm always screwing something up.
I think
So-
you're Canadian at heart.
Yeah, no,
Not even at heart.
nope, no.
Nope.
This
You
is about as close to Canada as I'm getting.
Did you even go to vacation to Canada?
No need.
No Canada vacations.
No.
You know, I think the takeaway is that as a charity organization, or any organization for that matter, you have to be willing to admit that you've made a mistake, publicly admit it, rectify the mistake, and learn from it and go forward from there, and try not to make the mistake again, because it doesn't do anybody any good if you make the mistake and continue to do it.
Well, then it's no longer a mistake, right? It's just you being stupid.
Yeah,
Like,
there's a difference between
Yeah.
making a mistake and being stupid about it.
Yeah, and I think too, owning up to and apologizing before it's brought to your attention. Nobody wants to hear "I told you so," and
Nobody likes that.
a
Yeah,
good example
that's
of
a great
that
point.
was, yes, you forgot to put on the camera for the last one, but what was really interesting is if you listen to the podcast, we had two guests. One was my son, and one was his good friend, and we talked about racism and diversity and stuff. Well, after we aired it, my son called me up, and he's like, I really gotta be in front of the microphone and speak into it. It was nice to hear that without being like, Dante, I told you
you
needed
really
to do
gotta
this,
be closer. Yeah.
So it goes on all levels. It doesn't have to be on an organizational level, just on an individual basis. Sometimes you just got to suck it up and be like, yeah, I was wrong.
I think that goes to show a person's character, or an organization's character.
Oh, absolutely. Right? I
know.
mean,
It's an important thing to be able to apologize, to admit when you're wrong, and take steps not to do it again. And as we continue to grow as Veterans to Veterans Group, I'm sure there's going to be more mistakes that we make in the future. And if we catch them on our own, great. If not,
that's fine too,
that's
right?
fine too. And if anybody out there sees that we're making a mistake, let us know.
Yeah, please.
I haven't checked in a while, but we actually have so we have our business email, which is veteran2, the digit 2, right? veteran2veterangroup@gmail.com. And you can always get a hold of us there. But we do have a podcast email, which is v2vgpodcast@gmail.com. You can get a hold of us at either one. Although, to be honest, I don't check the podcast Gmail very often, but it will notify us if something pops up. But,
so,
any way you want to get a hold of us, there's lots of ways. And you can just do a Google search for us, and we pop up. But, I welcome feedback, and I welcome criticism.
Yeah, what's funny is, one of our board members approached me with the situation of, well, why did, before we found out the additional information, why did we decline them services, but we've offered to assist this other family who we know has money? Well, the two things is, one, we were delivering a medical device that it wasn't costing us anything, right?
Yep.
So it was something we had and they needed, so we delivered. That's just what we do.
That's part of our policy.
But if they came to us asking for financial means, we would have to really, put the screws to them to find out why.
Yeah,
And
because
I
it's
think,
coming out of our treasury at that point.
Yes. So, in medical devices, we always give away. We don't sell them. In this case, it was a power chair that was worth $5,000 plus.
Just about $6,000. Brandy new. But like Chuck said, we give that stuff away for free, and not just to veterans, first responders, and their families. Anybody.
Yes, that's part of our community service, which is another policy we have to update, is how we integrate community service
How
along
far
with,
does the community service go?
yeah,
Yeah.
and which another board member brought up to us, which I thought was great, that she was so forward thinking that you guys should have something that specifies what the parameters are for your community service.
Which we need, because our 501c3 is very specific for our clientele, and we need to make sure that we don't deviate from that in certain areas too far, because then we're no longer a 501c3 for veterans, first responders, and their families specifically. So there's a lot of nuance to that, and I want to make sure we're doing right by as many people as we can within the parameters of the legal framework that we're in.
And
Because ultimately, we want to help people. That's what we're here. You don't start a charity because you don't want to help people.
Well, yeah, and obviously, if you've lived past your toddler days, you will realize that you can't make everybody happy, and
That's true, and that's a sad state of affairs.
And it's something we've had to come to understand, especially as a charity, but not as an individual, where you look at your own bank account or your own cupboards and you're like, what can I do?
Yeah.
We have more as an organization than as individuals.
A lot more.
And
Jeez.
we're still not able to, take care of certain people for one reason or another.
Yeah.
But as a lot of places, a lot of organizations will say, you have to help us help you. Right, so you have to be able to be willing to make some changes yourself in certain circumstances.
Well, we always say we try to give a hand up, not a handout, and I think
Yes.
that's important. So, if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, reach out to us. You can reach out to us on Facebook, our email, call us on the phone, and again, you can look us up online, Veterans to Veterans Group. But of course, our email doesn't have the S. It's veteran2veterangroup@gmail.com. So I invite people to check us out and share it away. Thank you so much.
See you.